Hello, and welcome to the Accountability Coach podcast, where we discuss proven business success principles related to helping you make more money, work less, so you can enjoy even better work-life balance. This is Bachrach. Today we have a special guest with us who I think you will find to be of value to you in shifting any mindset issues so you can get the outcomes you desire, which will lead you to having your ideal business and ideal life. Ken Attard is the founder of Mindset Malta and the Inside Lane. Ken specializes as a mindset consultant, specifically helping frustrated entrepreneurs to adapt and pivot using his proprietary ARC method, allowing them to have more time freedom. Helping you shift your mindset to create the results that you desire is without a doubt one of his biggest passions in life. Well, welcome, Ken. We really appreciate you joining us today. And actually, I'm super excited for how you can help us with our mindset. So let's get started.
Fantastic, and I'm really excited to be here as well. And let's not waste time. Let's delve in because I'm sure there's plenty to talk about.
I'm sure we all need help in this area. I know. So let's just start with kind of a general question here. It might be a big question, but a general question. So
Right.
Why is mindset so instrumental in creating the results and experiences in our business and our life?
Well, essentially, the short answer to that is basically all of the results and the experiences that you're having, both in your business and in your life, are the byproduct of the way you are thinking, which obviously is associated with your mindset. And that also is connected with your beliefs. And amazingly, so many entrepreneurs are totally unaware of this fact, first of all, that the way they're thinking is it's affecting the results and the experiences that they're having. So everything really and truly starts from awareness and understanding that there is a process going on with the way you are thinking, which is creating the results and the experiences that you want. So essentially, the way you are thinking creates a feeling, creates an emotion. So, and to really simplify it, what you are thinking is creating an emotion that is either an emotion that feels good or an emotion that feels bad. And depending on what that emotion is, it's going to affect the actions and your actions and your behaviors, which then essentially is going to affect the results and the experiences in your life. So to give just maybe a classic example, you're thinking, and this part is really interesting because many people, many entrepreneurs as well, think it's the other way around. They think that the emotion is creating the bad thoughts, which they do. But the first thing that happens is that the thought creates the emotion. And then once that emotion is created, then the tendency is to go back and create more thoughts that are totally in line with that emotion. So, for instance, you're thinking, you're thinking something to the effect of, I really don't feel like doing much today, or just not feeling really well, and that creates this emotion of not feeling good and not feeling really good about yourself. And you decide, you know what, I'm not gonna head to the gym, and I'm just gonna sit here on the sofa. So the action, the behavior is affected by the emotion, which came from the thought. And then you say, and then you've created a result and experience where afterwards, potentially, you might feel bad about yourself. You might not. It really depends. But if that was flipped and you're feeling and you think, and you're thinking good things, and you're thinking, I'm feeling strong today, I'm in these things, and creating that emotion that feels good, now your action is going to be different. Your behavior is going to be different, and probably you're going to get yourself up off that sofa and head to the gym. For example, it's just a simple example, creating a different experience, a different result, simply because the thoughts that were created first were different. So what does this mean? Why is this so essential? It's so essential because if you actually look at the results and the experiences that you're having in your business, in any area of your life, and if there are certain things that you are not particularly happy with at this point in time, maybe some results, maybe some experiences, could be in your business, could be in your relationships, could be with your health, and you notice that they're not the results that you want, well, then that means you're going to have to head right back and start to recognize and become aware of what you are thinking. And this is why mindset plays such a crucial role. And dare I say that mindset is your superpower. You just have to know how to actually purposefully use it in your favor.
Yeah, I love that fact. Mindset is the superpower. That is so just right in itself powerful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give me another example, and I'm going to have it relate to something that my clients, I think, have issues with around mindset.
Okay.
Let's say that, in order, again, the outcome that you talked about. So an outcome is, hey, I want to help more people, which in turns generates more revenue to me. In order to do that, I've got to pick up the phone and make what we would call prospecting calls or business development calls. But I don't want people to think I'm selling them something. So I can't pick up the phone because they're going to think I'm selling them something. So they kind of psych themselves out of doing things
Mhm.
they know they have to do to get the outcome they want. How do you, I guess, for lack of a better way to say this, how do you fix that?
Okay, so fix that. I like that. There's because ultimately there really is nothing to fix, and this is where I'd like to let people off, let entrepreneurs off the hook right away from the beginning. Is that wherever you are at right now in your life, that's fine. You are exactly in the right place where you are meant to be right now, and this ties in nicely with what you're talking about because basically, like you said they're literally psyching themselves out. So they're creating the thoughts that create those emotions that make them feel bad about making that phone call. So something that is very interesting that again a lot of people are unaware of is the fact that every thought that you have, you create as well a picture or a movie alongside that. So for instance, if I were to ask you right now, what's the color of your front door? You have to bring up a picture or a movie of your front door so that you can recall that you actually look at the color of the door. So what this person is doing when they're attempting to, they want to make these phone calls is that they're running a movie of what they are anticipating, what they think the other person on the other side is going to start to potentially come back with, which, and they're running an unresourceful movie and unresourceful, for instance, internal auditory. So they're saying, okay, I got to make these phone calls. I really don't like making these phone calls because I think that, I'm thinking that the other person is going to be irritated because they're thinking I want to sell them something and people don't like that. And then now they're going to think badly of me and running all of these unresourceful thoughts, internal auditory. Now they're thinking really badly of themselves. And this is creating that bad emotion that I mentioned in the beginning, which obviously then stops, literally can potentially stop them in their tracks. So what if, my question would be this then, what if we could change that internal auditory? So many people get hung up in thinking about what they think other people are thinking about them. So let me repeat that. People get hung up in thinking about what they think other people are thinking about them. When in fact, most of the time, those other people aren't even thinking about them. And they're not even going to think badly of them. So we can change the internal auditory. So maybe you could say to yourself, you know what? Today's the day where I make some phone calls, where I interact with really great potential clients who give me really good feedback. They understand the process of selling. And now I'm saying these things to myself. And I'm creating a movie where I see clients happy with the way I'm interacting with them. Now I'm starting to create something that makes me feel good. So as I feel better about that and I change that movie, I change that internal auditory. Now my actions, my behaviors are going to change. And ultimately, the results and the experiences are going to have to change as well. So that's just a little bit of how that could potentially work without a doubt.
Okay, great. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So let's say that people, when they do pick up the phone, nothing really bad happens. It's all
Yeah.
really good. And at the end of that, they go, wow, that was really a good experience. Now it's tomorrow. and
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow they have to pick up the phone again. And
Mm-hmm.
somehow that initial fear of
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be salesy, even though they haven't ever had that bad experience, or they've had
Right.
almost, no bad experiences the whole time they've been doing this, but that fear creeps in for that first call. How do you help people change that mindset? Like, what would you tell them to do? Because they haven't really had a bad experience after they've made the calls and picked up the phone, but that first one is always the hardest. How can you help them with that?
The first one, yes, it can sometimes be the hardest. What I believe though is, as well as this, is especially if you haven't had bad experiences, the chances of that happening are probably going to become less and less as you do it. It's interesting. I was just talking about this the other day. Sometimes we just need to carry out, let's say, the most difficult task, the first thing. And once you do that and it's done, you realize it really wasn't such a big thing. The fear that might creep in, again, that is coming from, there definitely would be some habits that were created, some beliefs that were created way before. So they're somewhat ingrained in the subconscious. And this is why. So again, the simple fact that they may have this belief that, salespeople aren't good people. They may have had this thing that, salespeople aren't good people. Whereas in actual fact, salespeople are just, they're doing a job. It's true, they have to understand how to build rapport with their clients, and to understand how they could really easily do that. And my suggestion with anybody like picking up the phone is just, it's a conversation that you're going to be having. It's a conversation that you're going to be having. And one of the easiest ways for you to build rapport with someone on the other side is to recognize some sameness between yourself and the other client. Now, if it's on the phone, something that is really amazing is just notice the tone of voice of the other person. And if you notice the tone of voice of the other person and you also use the same tone of voice, you are automatically, subconsciously going to create some sameness between you and the other person on the other side of the phone, which automatically is going to help them to feel relaxed, to feel more relaxed, because you've created some sameness and now you are building up trust. And ultimately, when it comes to sales, as we're speaking about sales, when you can build up trust, that is everything when it comes to sales. Once you have the trust of your client, then the sale no longer becomes a hard sell or anything like that. Once you have the trust of your client, it's going to be something that's very, very easy. So someone starting the day off with just a tad bit of fear, I would create a really good picture. Remember the last phone call that you had that was really good, and notice what was so good about that. And watch that movie and recognize all the resourcefulness that you had during that really great phone call. And now you're going to use that in your very first phone call and probably subsequently all the other calls as well. And it just creates a really good feeling and you just move forward with it.
I like a couple of things in particular you said there. So the first one is having unresourceful thoughts, because you're right. They are not based on any fact
That's
at all. So
mm-hmm.
I love that. So basically and correct me if I'm wrong here, you're saying, hey, let's change that unresourceful thought to a resourceful thought.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because ultimately, once you change it to a resourceful thought, it's going to change the emotion. It's going to change the emotion to a good feeling emotion. So if I just think, you know what, I had a really good day yesterday. Yesterday, I made some really good calls. What was it? What was so good about these calls? Oh yeah, I recall I spoke with that person. They gave me really good feedback, and the tone of voice I used and just creating all these resourceful thoughts again, which are going to create the good feelings. And as soon as you feel good about yourself, because ultimately that's what everybody just wants to do is feel good about themselves, your actions, your behaviors are gonna change automatically. And again, that changes the results and the experiences.
It's hard to get good results when you're not feeling good about yourself,
Oh,
for
exactly,
sure.
exactly. But amazingly, so many people will, like, even if they just start off the day with, and again, just starting off the day with, oh man, I have to make phone calls today. Well, you're already starting to create something that is not a good feeling. Whereas you could flip it and say, oh wow, today I have these phone calls. fantastic. I'm looking forward to creating some new sales, which is going to create, which is going to create more income for myself. And you know what? I'm going to be able to take that vacation I always wanted to take. Well, now I have something to move towards rather than looking at all the things that are holding me back and rather than moving away from things, it's moving towards things. And once you have a big towards to where people can go towards, now you're going to start to create some really great results.
The other thing that you said that I think is important to recognize, at least from my perspective for the people I work with, is you said a person might have a perception that salespeople aren't good people thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you said, hey, maybe they're thinking they're playing an old record of somehow they have this thought based again,
Mm-hmm.
probably on nothing, but that salespeople aren't good people thought. So they say to themselves, well, I don't want to be salesy because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be like a salesperson. But that's really, again, an unresourceful thought that really isn't based on anything other than maybe an old record, if I heard you
And
correctly,
yeah,
playing in their head.
yes, and which was based on other people's beliefs, which were then installed into them. So from a very young age, from the day we are born to the age of 7, we are being installed with many different programs. Now, not necessarily salesy programs, but things about not believing in ourselves. The three roots of all evil, if you want to call it. I believe I had heard these many years ago. I believe it was Greg Braden. Is one of them is deservability. Sometimes a lot of people don't believe that they deserve to actually be successful. And the other root of all evil is they believe that they're not good enough. And then the final one is actually trust and trusting and believing in themselves and trusting that everything is going to work out perfectly. And these are things that, that are very much ingrained in many people. So these old thoughts, like you said, these old thoughts, they potentially were beliefs of other people who installed them. So if they heard from other people, for instance, so often that they really don't like salespeople, salespeople are really not good people. They're out to make win you over or whatever it may be, and they've heard that over and over again, and now it's become somewhat of their belief. Then that could be potentially something that's holding them back, which actually creates that initial thought of, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be that type of person. When in actual fact, like you said, it's unfounded truth. There's a great line in the Pursuit of Happiness, where in the movie Will Smith is speaking to his son, who they're on the basketball court, and the son wants to be, saying he wants to be this basketball pro or whatever, and his father basically tells him, you know what, you're never going to be this basketball pro. I mean, just like, and then he realizes what he's actually saying, and he turns to his son and he says, never let anybody tell you that you can't do anything, because the only reason that they tell you that is because they can't. So this is really important when it comes to this, because sometimes, if you're not believing in yourself, you think you're not good enough, for instance, it's only because some beliefs have been installed potentially from a very young age, but you can change those. That's the great thing. You can change those, and part of it is this is where mindset comes into it, and learning about mindset. And a lot of people think that learning about mindset is something that's like rocket science, or it's not rocket science. It's about making mindset top of mind for you on a daily basis. It's not something you hear an inspirational talk, for instance, and you say, "Oh, wow, that's really cool. I'll delve into it." And you delve into it for a day or two, and then maybe a week, and then somehow you put it on the back shelf. I like to call it the triple U syndrome, U being the letter U, because mindset is underrated. That's the first U. It's just underrated. Like I said, people just, they hear about it, but then they put it on the back shelf and they leave it there. And they don't realize that mindset is actually your superpower, as we mentioned. Then it's underestimated, which is the second U. So it's again, it's just left there, and it's so underestimated that if you really knew that it was a superpower, wouldn't you bring it in front of you every single day and make the best use of it? And because it's underrated and underestimated, it's underutilized. It's just not used to the potential that it can be used. And this is so, so important. And the only reason this happens is because your belief is still not strong enough that mindset actually is your superpower and can give you all the results, all the experiences that you want in your business, in your life, in every single area of your life.
And I must have missed it. So mindset is underrated, underestimated, and
Underutilized.
underutilized. Yeah, and how belief ties in with that is also so very, very powerful. And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes people aren't aware that they have a belief that's creating their mindset to be such a way.
That's it. Absolutely. And that's where everything starts, is from awareness, because what you don't know, you don't know. And what you do know, you do know. The thing is that what you do know was probably taught to you by someone, and it wasn't necessarily the truth. It wasn't necessarily a resourceful thing that they taught you. Many were, and so you have many resourceful ones as well, but there were some that were unresourceful. And again, not ill-intentioned or anything like that. Our parents, our teachers, not ill-intentioned, but how many times have people heard that they need to struggle, they need to struggle, they need to suffer, they need to sacrifice in their business? Whereas, what if, and I'll just leave it with this, with what if your business could be fun? What if your business could be fulfilling? What if it could be inspirational? What if it could be flowing? But so many entrepreneurs have learned that it needs to be a sacrifice, suffering, and all of these things. It doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges. You will have challenges. Yet, when you can sway through your challenges and still be happy, be joyful, and enjoy it, and enjoy the journey, because that's all you have, now you're talking about real success.
So how do we shift that, first of all, to be aware or be more mindful, right, of what our belief system is, and that may not be serving us, so that we can really aspire to the fun, the inspiring, the fulfilling, and flowing? How do we change that?
One of the easiest ways to change that is to start your day with gratitude and appreciation. So gratitude and appreciation even stronger, in the sense that, because appreciation, as I mentioned before, is a towards to. So you appreciate what you do have. You appreciate, even as simple as appreciating the fact that you had a bed to sleep in the night before, appreciating that you have food in your fridge, appreciating that you have a business to go to or a job to go to. Just appreciation. Why? Because appreciation is aligning, is a high frequency, and it's aligning, and it sets the tone for the day. So call it whatever you'd like. One of the core pillars of my ARC method is alignment. And aligning with what? Aligning with, call it whatever you'd like. You could call it God, you could call it the divine, you could call it source, you could call it source energy, you could call it Bob, you could call it Bill, you could call it Jane. It really doesn't matter what name you call it. It's something bigger than you that you align with, where everything exists for you. And when you start to appreciate, it moves you towards that alignment. So that as a frequency of alignment, as a frequency of appreciation, once you are appreciating, you're opening the doors to receive more things to be appreciative of. So essentially, with appreciation, you're creating those thoughts of appreciation, creating those good feelings of appreciation. And now, again, your actions, your behaviors, it starts to affect the results and the experiences that actually, believe it or not, start to appear in your life, whether they're the circumstances that start to appear, whether the people that start to appear in your life, the situations, they start to be aligned with appreciation, and things start to shift. This is one really simple way that anybody listening here can start right away, starting from this very moment. They can just take a moment and be appreciative of all the things that you have in your life and that are working, being focused on what's working in your life, so that again, you align with the things that are working. So many people are so focused on what's not working in their life. And as they focus on that, they create more of that. So these are a couple of really simple ways to start making those shifts when it comes to your mindset.
I love that. Think about How many people wake up in the morning, and I've heard this so many times, and they open their phone, check their email, start
Yeah,
working, and it's like that's a horrible way, in my
yeah,
opinion, to start the day, as opposed to, hey, let's make a new, I guess, behavior or habit that, hey, I'm going to
yeah.
start my day with appreciation now.
Absolutely. And it makes such a significant difference. And especially when, so give people a little hint, it would make it so easy. So as you're waking up, when you're still in that state where you're not completely awake, you're still like semi-asleep, it means your brain waves still aren't in full beta. So they're not fully alert. So they're still a bit slow. And in that state, if you can just align with appreciation in that state, and that's a great state to actually align with it to create even more results in your life.
I love that. And I'm hoping that people listening to this will maybe make that adjustment if they wake up to work right away, as opposed to waking up to being appreciative for all the things that we do have. And you're right. Simple things in life. We have food in the refrigerator. Hey, I have a nice
That's it.
comfy bed to sleep in. Hey, I have good relationships, or, whatever it might be. There's so many things
Absolutely.
that we can appreciate in our lives that we don't. I'm just curious, if you had to pick one thing, what potentially would be one of the biggest mistakes an entrepreneur could make as it relates to this?
One of the biggest mistakes that I see that entrepreneurs make is this, is that they start entrepreneurs start their business because they have a great idea. They want to share it with their market, whether that be the world or their local market, whatever it is, because they want to create the financial freedom for themselves. And ultimately, they want to create the freedom, the ultimate freedom for themselves so they can have the freedom that they want in their life. And then all of a sudden, they find themselves actually working 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days on a really, really consistent basis. I'm not saying that someone wouldn't put in certain amount of hours during certain times in their business. Yet when it becomes the norm that you are doing this, this becomes a huge problem because it's completely incongruent to what you started out with. So you said you wanted freedom, and now you actually have taken away that freedom. And again, part of it is, believe it or not, coming back to the beliefs, is that as entrepreneurs, we've heard so many times, time and time again, how important it is for you to be taking action, taking action, taking action, which I'm not saying is not important, absolutely. But what I've come to discover over the years is that there is a huge difference between taking action and taking inspired action. So if we were to come back to the salesperson who's making the phone calls, when you are in appreciation, when you are aware of the way you are thinking, when you are aligned with something that is much bigger than you, now all of a sudden you're making 10 phone calls in a day and you're getting 9 really positive responses. Whereas when you are not in alignment, you're making 100 phone calls a day and barely getting one that is a good response. Why? Because when you actually take the time to stop, to slow down, stopping in itself is an action. Remember, stopping in itself is an action. So when you take time to stop and to appreciate and to align, now you've stopped, you're not going, and now all of a sudden you get inspiration. You allow inspiration to actually enter because you've slowed down enough for inspiration to actually come. This is why someone could be in the shower and then all of a sudden a great idea pops into their head. Why? Because they're actually in the shower and they've slowed down their thinking and they've made some room for inspiration to come in. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make, is that they want to go because they think they're going to miss out on a piece of the pie, and that comes from a lack mentality. When you come from an abundant mindset, the pie never finishes. When you have abundance and you take a slice of pie from abundance, you take a slice of abundance from abundance, you are left with abundance. It's never ending. So there's enough for everybody. And when you come from that mindset, and this is one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have, is that they think there's not enough and they think they got to go. Comes a time when you need to stop. And I would say is one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make.
I would totally agree with that. I've had several conversations this week actually with my clients where they've said, I'm so burned out,
Yeah.
or is it okay to take a break? Or what if I just want to look out the window? And I
Yeah.
said, those are all really great things.
Yeah.
Put time actually in your calendar to check out, because you'll
Yeah.
come back more focused, more energized, and be able to be even more productive, and don't feel
Absolutely.
guilty,
That's
right?
right, because that happens. They start to feel guilty. Exactly. When in actual fact, that stopping process, like you're saying, is probably one of the most important actions that they're going to take throughout the day.
Yeah. And I think they feel that guilt coming on, like, oh, I
Yeah.
have to keep going through these 10 hours or 4 hours, like push or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And they
Because,
feel
because,
guilty.
yeah, because someone has told them that that's what they need to be doing. Because if they're not working 10 hours a day, then they're obviously not an entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur, sacrifices their life. An entrepreneur has to be suffering. An entrepreneur needs to be struggling. And what happens is these sacrifice, struggle, suffering, it becomes the equation which equals success. So obviously, if the entrepreneur is not doing that, all of a sudden they're going to feel guilty because now they feel like they're not successful. When in actual fact, they could be having fun. They could be having time. And this is what I'm out to shatter is that they can actually have time for their own life, time for their relationships, time for their personal life, time for their family. Because you're either living for your business or you're in the business of living. It's a choice.
Absolutely. And I guess, again, if you can visualize the old fashioned record, it's like we're going to just take that old record playing in our head and just smash it to smithereens
That's it.
and create a new record that from this day forward is now going to be playing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's practice like anything else because you will potentially find yourself going back to default, like you said, but maybe the first time, maybe the second time, but then you're aware now. So now you switch it and you switch it again. And now all of a sudden you're creating a new record, exactly like you said. And while you're creating a new record, the other one is dissipating completely.
I love it. I totally love it. Anything else you want to share?
What I'd like to share, I'd like to give a gift to your listeners. If I could, I have a free masterclass if they'd like to listen to it. And where they could just go to adaptandpivotnow.com. And that's just a free masterclass. It doesn't cost anything. It's about 30 minutes. And they can get some ideas there of, what I'm really, the message that I'm really want to get out there. Otherwise than that, what I also love to tell your listeners is this, is like I said before, you are exactly where you are meant to be right now. You don't need to be, so hard on yourself wherever you are. If right now you find yourself maybe in a bit of a challenging moment, that's okay. You're meant to be there. And this is how you're going to grow and learn. Remember, this life is way too short. It's way too short. So always remember to laugh a lot more. And when you can start to really laugh at yourself, even better. So this would be my message to anybody who's listening.
I want to get the URL again one more time, please, Ken.
Sure.
You said adapt and pivot
Adapt.
now,
Yeah, that's right. Adaptandpivotnow.com.
and you spell out the and.
And you spell out the end. Yes, correct.
Okay, so adaptandpivotnow.com.
Yeah. And
Perfect for
it's,
the free
yeah,
masterclass. I love it.
that's right.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Hopefully a lot of people will recognize the value in changing their old record to a new record so they can accelerate their results with a new mindset that's going to get them there.
absolutely.
I appreciate you taking your very valuable time to be with us today and wish you the very best going forward.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, my hope for our time together with Ken Attard is that you got value and an idea or two that will help you be even more successful professionally and personally. Feel free to share my podcast with others as they can be found on most podcast platforms and in most English speaking countries. And if you'd like to get a short daily fix from me, subscribe to the Accountability Minute, which also can be found on most podcast platforms and in most English speaking countries, of course, as well as on accountabilitycoach.com. And always remember to aim for what you want each and every day. Until next time, make it a great day, today and every day. I appreciate you listening.